have to say I'm very surprised to see Infect at the top tables.
There's a lot of situations where you're leaning really heavily on Blighted Agent with this deck, but it still has a lot of explosive power.
So we have this matchup then of Elves versus Infect. I guess, first of all, do you have something someone's favored here in the matchup?
So the matchup is largely a straight race. The die roll seems pretty important. On the play, I like Infect a good amount. There's both the Blighted Agents to get ahead and Berserk.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start the match here. For Chris Allen, starting on Dryad Arbor, Andrew Jessup is going to Green Sun Zenith into a Dryad Arbor. And there's a lot of pressure on Allen to have a Blighted Agent in this matchup. There's really no way to deal with it, right?
Yeah, the Blighted Agent just gets to keep connecting. Although this is Legacy, not Modern, so Glistener Elf in combination with some pump spells in Berserk can just run over all the little elves as well.
So fetch for Tropical Island here from Chris Allen. That turns on the Daze in his hand. Because he started the game on Dryad Arbor, he was not able to Daze. So now he'll actually Brainstorm, so no Infector just yet.
And this is not one of the better matchups in Legacy for the card Daze.
No, it's got a very small window. I mean, if he doesn't Daze something on this turn, he may never get to.
Right. You know, frequently, if you're on the draw against elves, I've certainly boarded Daze out plenty against this deck.
Then again, when you have a set of Forked Bolt, it's a little different.
Yeah, when you're just straight casting creatures against them, it's real bad.
All right, go to Andrew's second turn. He's going to start with Glimpse of Nature. Chris might just Daze for value here. Now, you get to draw a card on casting a creature, not on a creature resolving. So he's going to try. We'll see. Andrew's kind of deciding, wait, does he want to play on that? He does have, looks like a Wooded Foothills. And maybe also a Cavern of Souls. Cavern's pretty nice. He can play it to pay for a Daze and then cast a creature off it. Opts not to play his land. He's going to go ahead and run a creature into a possible Daze. It's going to be Birchlore Ranger. So he does draw a card off cast. So Chris can counter it. Andrew still gets the card.
If he's able to resolve a creature here and produce a Gaia's Cradle, that's a huge win for him. That's the strong incentive to not play a land here. That's the potential upside that he sees.
Chris will Daze the elf. Andrew still draws. Now I keep going. He drew another copy of Glimpse of Nature. Land and pass. So really the Glimpse just cycled there. So go back to Allen. Replays his Tropical Island, and here is a Ponder still looking for that creature. Pierce, Ponder, Vines of Vastwood. A lot of times it's free to Ponder into Ponder, but there's not a second blue source for Chris Allen, so he's actually going to shuffle off this.
This is a really slow hand for the Infect deck.
Yeah, in a matchup where you don't want to be slow. Shuffle and a draw. Chris looking for Inkmoth, Blighted Agent. Found a blue card, but don't believe it's an ink. It's an agent.
I believe that was the Eternal Master's Force of Will, which
Right.
is all well and good. His hand is pretty loaded up on pump spells, which is nice, but he has to produce a way to actually win the game.
Well, he hits in for one with Dryad Arbor.
That's probably not how the game is going to end.
Yeah, these Force of Wills are also, if I'm wrong here, they're not particularly good against elves either.
There's some spells that matter a lot that you can fight over, things like Glimpse of Nature, Natural Order. But Andrew's deck's just full up on threats that he can deploy.
On instead there, Andrew goes out and fetches for another Dryad Arbor. He's very much rewarded as he draws Gaia's Cradle for the turn, and now he's going to cast Glimpse again.
He's still got a bunch of cards in hand. That one does invite a force.
Yeah, force pitching force here for Allen.
Jessup certainly not done with this turn just yet.
No, he'll play Gaia's Cradle, it looks like. Start with Elvish Visionary. That Cradle currently tapping for 3. Make 3 green. Looks like it's going to be Green Sun's Zenith. Might just, yeah, I'll just get Symbiote to bounce the Visionary. Untap a Dryad Arbor, use the 1 mana floating to recast Visionary.
That's a combo. Wirewood Symbiote, Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, so Cradle made 3. He Zenith for 1, floating 1 green. Got Symbiote, bounced Visionary to untap Dryad Arbor. That's the second one.
Picking up Elvish Visionary to Wirewood Symbiote might be the most common game action that Andrew Jessup makes in Magic.
Yeah, we see it, I mean, pretty frequently when they play a deck. Back over to Chris Allen. He drew Inkmoth Nexus, so he'll play that. Now he has an Infect creature.
In his hand, he's still full up on it. I believe he has Pendlehaven, Berserk, Invigorate.
Okay, so that's a kill.
He has to survive to the next turn, which is not a guarantee with
No.
what Jessup is already presenting.
Yeah, says go. Jessup deciding if he just wants to end step bounce the Visionary. Says no.
Has bigger plans for his mana, it appears.
Well, I would think if you're in Jessup's spot, you kind of have to assume you're dead next turn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's Nettle Sentinel. Cavern of Souls. It's going to make 5, 6 mana, 7, 8. Just cast Crater of Behemoth. Cavern naming Beast, I believe.
And there are 6 creatures under Jessup's control because of the 2 Dryad Arbors.
Yeah, Symbiote going to bounce Nettle Sentinel to untap Dryad Arbor. Yeah, 6/6 to this whole team. This is very lethal. The pump alone is 24.
Yeah,
And so even through a blocker, it's still dead.
sometimes the Infect deck gets a little tricky and uses its Berserk to kill one of your creatures, though this is just a lethal attack. That's not a line that's available here. Generally isn't going to be live against the Elves deck whatsoever.
Let's go ahead and count this one up. All right, so there were 6 creatures when it was cast, so the Craterhoof Behemoth trigger. Yeah, I see Chris Allen's going to count that one up. Craterhoof giving Andrew's team +6/+6. And Andrew Jessup with Elves is going to go ahead and take game 1. Chris Allen keeping a hand, I suppose with Invigorate plus Berserk, a really powerful opener. It's short and Infector, but he had a Ponder. There's a lot to like in it.
Yeah, he saw some extra cards. He had a lot of what he wanted. Makes enough sense to keep, but it didn't pay off.
All right, I'm going to go to the sideboard then for Chris Allen. 14 different cards available here. The only multiple one is 2 copies of Submerge, which is usually pretty good against green decks. The other one is Force of Will, Bazooka Bog, Caracas, Crop Rotation, which can get the Bog, Spellskite, Sylvan Library, Flusterstorm, Hydroblast, Croson Grip, Viridian Corruptor, Surgical Extraction, Invasive Surgery, and Pithing Needle.
Yeah, so the big hits are those 2 Submerge. That can buy him a little bit of time. This matchup is largely just a straight race, so that can slow the Elves player down. Totally reasonable to bring that in. The extra Force of Will to fight over Natural Order, Glimpse of Nature, that can buy him some time as well. That stuff all seems pretty reasonable. Crop Rotation, when you know that it's just going to resolve, just to have an extra copy of Inkmoth Nexus, that seems totally reasonable as well. And you could bring in Flusterstorm for the same reason that he wants the Force of Will, though it's not particularly strong.
On Andrew's side, he's got a set of Thoughtseize, a set of Abrupt Decay, 2 Cabal Therapy, 2 Surgical Extraction, and 2 Pithing Needle. These are 4 combo decks to go, to board in against unfair decks. In fact, is an unfair deck. Which of these does he want? He doesn't want to overboard here, though. He's almost as fast as Infect to begin with.
Right. He doesn't have anything that's just a straight removal spell. You can Thoughtseize to get a Blighted Agent out of the hand when you're on the draw. It seems pretty medium. So you can at least take care of Berserk.
Abrupt Decay, does that work?
It works against everything but Inkmoth Nexus. And you can use Pithing Needle to stop the Inkmoth Nexus from activating. So he has a lot of kind of B-, C+ cards.
Yeah, so he wants maybe board them in, but perhaps not.
Thoughtseize is the most likely one here because it can at least hit a pump spell, even if it doesn't necessarily get the actual Infect threat.
Yeah, much makes sense. Well, Allen will be on the play here for game number 2. For those of you joining us, this is our Legacy event here in Season 1. We have one every season. By no means is it our only event here in Season 1, though there's still a lot of opportunities to come out to the SCG Tour. You see here in April, this was the season so far as we made our way to Worcester. But we have more events coming. We have 4 more opens before our Season 1 Invitational. So we have, coming up in 3 weeks, we have the Atlanta Open. That's going to be in Standard. We have our next second team event. This was a change of format from earlier because of just how popular the event was. On May 20th to 21st, we'll be back in Louisville to play a team event here in the tour. So that means Legacy will be here as well as Standard and Modern. You need a 3-person team. Each of you plays one format. And I mean, we got to cover the first one of those in Baltimore. It was a blast.
And if you want to play this event, strongly recommend pre-registering.
Yeah, absolutely. The following week, we'll be back in Baltimore for a Modern Open. We take a week off before we go to Charlotte to play Modern and then end the Season 1 Invitational. It's June 30th through July 2nd, Modern and Standard in Roanoke, Virginia. Now, when you come out to our events, you do get playmats here for Season 1, depending on whether it's an Infinite Challenge event, a Classic, or the main event. If it's a Standard event, you get a copy of the Aether Hub playmat. For Modern, we're giving away the Aether Vial and Masterpiece series here from Kaladesh. See kind of a theme going on with Ether. So we're going to give away Ether Gamble for Legacy events. That's the Eternal Masters art. So all of those are available for free with entry to events. With any Season 1, Open or Classic, you get these exclusive playmats, but they will only be available through the end of June. So you're going to want to make it out to one of 5 more events left in the season.
Yeah, some really nice offerings as well. The team event, of course, new Standard with Amaket fresh off the presses.
Yeah, that's actually going to be the one in Atlanta in 3 weeks. That will be that'll be the weekend after Amanket's pre-release.
Get your chance to play with the new cards. Always very exciting, the Week 1 Open.
Yeah, no, actually, this is a bit different than what we've been seeing. For those wondering about rotation, we're back to the 2-year rotation, which means nothing. Amonkhet comes out, nothing falls off the back yet. So Amonkhet is just going to be added to current Standard.
Feels like Gideon Ally of Zendikar has been Standard legal for the better part of my life.
Yeah, under the old system, that battle for Zendikar would have rotated. But now cards, we'd only do rotation once a year. So Gideon did kind of get an extra 6 months off that change. Along with Ulamog, he's still around.
Yeah, that one's kind of been more in the background. It had a period where it was really everywhere. We're watching Gideon in this tournament. We saw that come off the sideboard of some Miracles players.
Yeah, Frank Scarron in round 3 really was his MVP in his matchup against J. Imperiali's Pox deck.
That card, it's easily top 3 Planeswalkers all time.
So what's your third then? I didn't ask what the first is, right?
Sure, that's obvious. We all know number 1's Jace the Mind Sculptor. A lot of people fight me when I put Karn Liberated over Liliana of the Veil. Liliana of the Veil is like a lot of people's third.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in Legacy, that would be number 3, right?
Yes, yeah. We kind of just
Karn has this thing where he costing exactly 7 is a really convenient thing for him in Modern.
Right. Yeah, also, I would rather have Karn in my cube deck than Liliana of the Veil.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that matters to me when I'm making this ranking.
I mean, so then is like Jace Memory Adept in the discussion?
No, he's only good in one format.
Cube?
Yeah.
He's really good in Cube.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably the best Jace in Cube.
Yeah, he's not even in my Grixis Cube, actually.
But Mind Sculptor is?
Oh, yeah. Mind Sculptor is nice.
But Memory Adept's too good for the Cube.
It's just too boring.
Yeah, I play it, and then it's like, if you don't kill it this turn, you lose.
Yep.
What? That's fun. Play it 0. Go. Can you kill it? No? Okay, next game. Chris starts off on Inkmoth Nexus. He did take a mulligan. And it's going to be Nettle Sentinel to start for Andrew Jessup. But this game, Chris does have an Infector, maybe even 2. His draw there is going to be a copy of
Wasteland.
Listener Elf. Yeah, I don't know if he has colored mana. Plays
that
Wasteland.
Does not produce colored mana, though it is an art that is a callback to City of Brass, which does produce colored mana.
Yeah, maybe he could just like write 19 on his score pad and cast that Glistener Elf. Is that where you're going with that?
I advise against these plays.
Chris is all in on these new artworks, playing with the Force of Wills and the Wastelands.
Do you know that Eternal Master's Force of Will is actually more expensive than the
Than
original
Alliances?
printing? People really like that art.
Well, I think there's some people that just want their whole deck to be new card face, and I get that. You'd have to play. You can do it with Berserk too, I suppose, right? Yeah, there's like the from the vault banned cards. It's exiled from the vault. It's from the vault banned cards.
Yeah. Is Berserk exiled or is it 20? It's one of them. Who cares?
Pithing Needle for Andrew Jessup. Your Invigorates. There's a dual decks Invigorate.
This Pithing Needle's probably not
I think we can get there.
Wasteland.
I think we can make every card new card face. I don't know about crop rotation.
I think you're missing on that one.
Sylvan Library you can. I think we're most of the way there. The Pithing Needle is going to name Inkmoth Nexus. Not Wasteland. As Andrew swings in for 2.
And remember, Pithing Needle just shuts off activated abilities. The Ink Moth can still produce the colorless mana that will continue to be as useless as it was on turn 2.
He was like, yeah, great. Chris gets more colorless mana. He looks at his hand of, Ponder, Glistener Elf. Yeah. The best use of colorless mana in his deck is activating Inkmoth Nexus, which... All right. So Andrew then hits in for 1 with Nettle Sentinel, plays Birchlore Rangers, and untaps the Sentinel. And Chris looks like his speculative 6 not making here. No more lands, no colored mana, no plays.
It's a hard hand to keep and a hard hand to mulligan. The Infect deck is another one that does not lend itself to mulliganing particularly well.
I mean, it can. Yeah. I mean,
certainly in this matchup where it's all about racing, there's a little bit more incentive to going down to 5.
Yeah, you don't really need any of the... If you have Invigorate, Berserk, Inkmoth Nexus land, you don't really need much. A swing here for 3 puts Chris down to 15. Now Andrew's just taking his time. Another Birchlore Rangers. And just play some 1/1s. Heritage Druid. He's got a lot of mana. There's a land for Chris. This can get Tropical Island. Now, 1 Crater Hoof or Green Sun Zenith in Andrew's hand is, if not lethal, is very close. No, and actually it is lethal here. He makes a bunch of makes mana. Casts Crater Hoof, which will untap Nettle Sentinel. Then he'll use the Rangers to untap, to bounce the rest of his lands, untap them, swing with a bunch of large creatures. Because of that Pithing Needle, Chris can't win this turn. Maybe he could have, it's possible if he has Force of Will for Crater Hoof that he can survive.
Yeah, he can certainly buy some time that way.
Yeah. He may need something like that. So he'll cast Glistener Elf. And pass. Has Invigorate in hand and Vines of Vastwood. He's going to submerge Heritage Druid.
If Jessup goes to crack a fetch land, he'll have to shuffle that one away.
Well, now he doesn't have the mana for Crater Roof, so that's some good defense played by Chris.
If he finds a Gaia's Cradle, though, he'll have all kinds of mana.
Chris is going to Wasteland away the Dryad Arbor, which Andrew will use to the Ranger to put it back in his hand. So it looks like Chris has bought himself another turn here with those plays. Jessup will just attack for 4, puts Allen down to 10.
Jessup's not even going to mess around, just goes for Abrupt Decay on the Glistener Elf straight away.
Yeah, untaps his Nettle Sentinel. And there's another thing where that mana situation from Chris is still coming back to get him. Does have Vines of Vastwood in his hand. That actually counters Abrupt Decay. But no green mana to cast it. He'll Brainstorm. Three more non-lands. without any mana, he's not going to have any plays. That's going to just about do it.
One of those cards was Gitaxian Probe. Chris is well past the point of caring about what's in Jessup's hand.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly doesn't want to pay 2 life for it. He's at 10 facing down 5 power. I guess maybe it's a 2-turn clock either way. But the issue is that he doesn't have a shuffle effect, and he just put 2 cards back on top with Brainstorm.
Yep.
He's got Force of Will in his hand, but he doesn't have any outs here, and he's not going to draw any.
Right. And Jessup just currently presenting a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, just swing the board, play Elvish Visionary, say go.
Could even just sit on Abrupt Decay if you wanted to. No real reason for it, but it's an option.
Yeah, so Elvish Visionary played here, bounces. He just has to figure out how he's going to lose.
Yeah. It would need to be something that can destroy Pithing Needle and leave Chris with enough mana to make the Inkmoth Nexus in 1 turn. And there's enough free pump spells where the actual making the Inkmoth Nexus lethal is not terribly hard to understand. But there's really nothing Jessup can do about that. He has no flying blockers. His Abrupt Decay can't tag the Inkmoth Nexus.
Chris is going to use Force of Will, pitching Ponder to counter this Green Sun Zenith. Puts him down to 9. So swing is for 4 from Jessup. Chris goes to 5. Yeah, and Jessup just might win the really slow way. Says go. Last draw for Chris. This is a known draw, though. It's Brainstorm. I don't know exactly what he's hoping to hit here. He can cast it, and he'll see 2 new cards. One of them has to be a land, so he really only gets 1 card.
If he casts Gitaxian Probe first, he'd be looking at more fresh cards, and he's just dead on the following turn anyway. Though I don't think he's drawing to anything anyhow. So this one's just going to pretty quickly go in Jessup's favor. Picked up another Inkmoth Nexus off of his Brainstorm here. That's not going to do anything here. Foothills gives him a shuffle, but he has to close here. He's just facing down lethal. All Jessup has to do to untap that Sentinel is cast any green spell. That fetch land goes off. That means the non-Nettle Sentinel creatures are already lethal.
Uses the Brainstorm. He gets to shuffle away. He's going to get a Tropical Island. Yeah, I certainly can't cast Probe. Or really survive. We'll cast Noble Hierarch. I guess he's hoping that Andrew has no green spells to untap the Nettle Sentinel. If that's the case, he has another turn. But that's not the case.
Right.
Also, Andrew can untap it with the Rangers. And he'll Abrupt Decay the blocker, and that's going to be the match. Andrew Jessup with Elves improves to 7-0 with a clean win over Chris Allen's Infect deck. And second time on camera here for Andrew Jessup, and really the 4 convincing game wins.